Hey BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw, finally here to do my July TBR, or I guess a TBR for what's left of July, considering we're like halfway through the month already. I will fully admit I completely dropped the ball on that one. I think that in between getting the new podcast up and running and then the 4th of July holiday, things have just been a little crazy at the Outlaw House. So I am woefully behind. I'm fully ready to admit that there probably will not be a June wrap up. You can always go and check my Goodreads if you want to see what I'm reading month to month. But unfortunately, I think the ship has sailed on wrapping up June 2016. I'm hoping sometime by the end of the month to have a kind of mid-year reading stats kind of numbers update for you guys. Fingers crossed that ends up panning out. But here is what I'm planning on reading in the second half of July. It's all nonfiction. It's going to be a very heavy nonfiction month, two of which are basically kind of interrelated or related to each other. I want to see how they reflect upon each other. So the first one is a book you've already seen me talk about. This is The Lynching, the epic courtroom battle that brought down the Klan by Lawrence Leamer. I hauled this in my most recent library loot, and it is pretty much one of those books that tells you exactly what it's about on the cover. I am looking forward to seeing exactly how the legality of this case played out in its reflection on the Ku Klux Klan and how that court case kind of dictated what the future of the Klan would look like. Right now, I mean, to say right now diminishes the problem and makes it sound like it is not an ongoing and constantly occurring issue that needs acknowledgement and fixing. But right now, particularly, there have yet again been more shooting of Black men in America by the police, all of which stems from systemic and violent racism, in addition to other institutional problems. So I'm hoping to kind of gain some current understanding of that by going backwards in time and looking at some of the history. Playing on that is also a book called White Trash, The 400-Year Untold History of Class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. I saw this on Amanda Nelson's Instagram. She has been reading and talking about it recently. I will link her Instagram below. She is the managing editor of Book Riot and makes some absolutely fantastic recommendations for things like race and gender in this country. But this is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. This is the history of class in America, both in terms of racial and gender divisions. I'm particularly interested in the moment at the racial divisions. I think the main title, White Trash, kind of gives away where some of that will be going, because white class politics and black class politics have always danced this kind of interwoven tango of oppression and superiority. And I'm just really interested in kind of teasing out how those two things may or may not work together. This is another book that I got from my library. It is another big, chunky book with a good section of end notes. Wow, really good section of end notes. Way actually longer than I was expecting. The end notes start right about here. So that this is end notes and this is content. So that kind of gives you an idea of the scholarship and scholarly resources that went into creating this book. As I've said before, as a lapsed academic, I love a nice meaty nonfiction that's well documented and has a really solid bibliography and endnote section. So I'm hoping to be able to go through the endnotes of both of these books and pick out some titles for further reading. If looking at race in America and the Black Lives Matter movement is something that is interesting to you, I will link some videos down below from people who talk about it with much more knowledge and insight and verbosity than I ever could. The videos linked below are powerful and gut-wrenching and deserve your views. So please go check out some of the community voices that are speaking on the issue and the impact far better than I ever could. And then lastly, we have a much smaller nonfiction, but one that relates to a lot of the reading I've been doing recently, and that is Stephen King's Danse Macabre. On the back, it says, the best-selling horror author of all time, Stephen King, knows better than anyone else in the world what scares you and why. Now, in his most unusual masterpiece, he takes you on his personal tour of the dark ballroom of horror. Come, take his arm, let the dance begin. So this is kind of this is a nonfiction piece about why we like horror, how horror works, what we find scary and what we don't, and how we delineate between the two. And I have been doing a lot of horror reading recently. Horror is always a genre that I've been really interested in, but for some reason over the past 5-6 months, my interest has grown and my focus has deepened specifically in horror short fiction. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this and kind of figuring out why that might be and why horror works for me and why it works for other people and how horror works and kind of all of those things wrapped up together. And I think who better to tell me than Stephen King, the master himself. So those are the 3 books I'm hoping to finish up in the tail end of the month. I am also reading Pat Cadigan's Sinners, which is the book that we are reading for the Magical Pussycats read-along. Please join us if you would like to. We have our kind of midway update episode going up here in the next week or 2, so keep your eyes posted for that. There will be probably another announcement video on this blog to keep you guys updated, or on this channel. So tune in for that. Please feel free to read along with us. It is a cyberpunk novel that deals with virtual realities and programmers and awesome badass ladies, written by an awesome badass lady. So please feel free to join us if you haven't. Otherwise, let me know down below if you've read any of these, if you have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, all the usual goodies. Check me out all over social media, and I'm always here to talk books with you guys. All right.